welcome to another episode of the MLS UK show. I'm Henry Hewitt, and as always, I'm joined by
Elliot Holman.
Right, Elliot, lots to talk about today. We're a month away from Decision Day, midweek action, and we've got the return. This is for the OGs of the MLS UK show. You are bringing back an old classic.
I am bringing back an old classic. I don't know when the last time we played this was, but we used to have a game that was kind of a higher or lower, and we called it instead of the Price is Right, we called it the Christ is Right, named after the fantastic manager, Jason Kreis.
So that's to come later on. We're also going to be talking about the return of Carlos Vela to MLS and a new manager in with the US men's national team. But first, as we kick off every MLS UK show, we have got the Anton Walkes game with the changing name.
Yes, so I'm going to give you the career path of a MLS player who's played in MLS and in the UK, and you have to work out who it is just by the clubs that they've played for. And, it's a different one today. This player was born in 1963.
Oh, right, okay, so we're talking... Okay, so they would have been 30, start of the 90s. Okay, so the career mustn't have gone much past 2000s.
So don't message me and say, these are easy, because this is what will happen. Okay? This is what happens. Had a couple of these in my DMs. So here we go. This one's for you. Started their career at Partick Thistle in 1979. They've also played for, this is a great list of clubs, by the way, Watford, Celtic, Nons, Rangers, Everton, Heart of Midlothian, what team? Falkirk, and there's one more team. Obviously, it's the MLS side, and it's Kansas City Wizards.
Right. Well, I mean, fair play to this guy for playing for both Rangers and Celtic, and then Hearts as well. Right, okay. So, were they playing at the very start of MLS then, I imagine?
They were, in the first season, I believe.
Right, okay. Well, my MLS knowledge, considering I was, I think, 5 years old when it started, maybe 6, the knowledge of that early part, apart from little things I've seen on YouTube, is not great. So I'll try and have a think. I'll delve way into the memory bank and see if I can work out who it is. If you know who it is, then get in touch at MLS UK Show on social media, or if you're watching on YouTube, stick your answer in the comments. It'll leave a timestamp. I think it does anyway. And we know whether you're cheating or not. So, good luck with that one. And all will be revealed at the end of the episode.
I'd also like to extend a helping hand if you are a bit more of a Naughties MLS fan. This person managed both Toronto and New York Red Bulls in the noughties around 2006, 2007 time. So a little bit of extra info for you.
The MLS UK show.
Right, so we've had another busy few days of MLS action. There were matches midweek, and that's where we're going to start today's episode by looking at a few of those. Rounding up the midweek action as we head closer to Decision Day now. So the league and the conferences are starting to work out which teams might make playoffs, which teams have no chance. And now it really is, wins mean so much, because if you lose a game, you could be completely out of it, or, you could effectively make the playoffs. So Elliot, you got to watch a match, which is unusual for us midweek because we both work. It's very unusual that we get to actually watch a match midweek. You watched one. Which match did you watch?
Yeah, so I get up about 2:30 in the UK normally in the week, and that meant that there was still some action going on, of course, in the Western Conference. So I actually watched FC Dallas at RSL, and what a game that was, by the way. What a pick. I tuned in and caught the goals, and then there was a goal right on half time as well. Just as I was about to leave the house, and thought, this is hooked me, this game. So FC Dallas got themselves back in it 2-1 just before the halftime break. And we'll come back to that specific goal a little later in the episode.
So it ended 3-2. RSL had only won 1 in 6 before this, and we effectively ruled them out of winning Supporters' Shield, which, I mean, since we last recorded, a lot of teams, it seems that Miami have just, they are going to walk away with it now. But they're not out of it to win the Western Conference. And I guess this shows how topsy-turvy the Western Conference is at the moment, because a team like RSL can lose a few matches, be effectively written out of it, and then win, and suddenly everyone else is losing and they're back in it. I mean, do they have a chance, or are you still pinning your hopes on LA Galaxy?
Well, LA is still the only LA Galaxy are still the only team in the West to have secured a playoff spot. We don't use that other word. And so, that suggests that, it's a little more open than the Eastern Conference. And, Real Salt Lake, what are they, 5 points off? There's still room for LA Galaxy to completely derail. But it looks like LA Galaxy are going to take the West.
Yeah, RSL got game in hand. They're on 29 games. LA Galaxy on 30. LAFC have got 2 games in hand on LA Galaxy and are 6 points behind. So, yeah, it is Galaxy's to lose. They got an amazing win in El Tráfico last weekend, 4-2. I watched the extended highlights of this. I wanted to see as much as I could without having to stay up in the middle of the night to watch it. But great performance, great goals. Ricky Puig running the show. And then the irony is that we then go and lose 4-2 last night against Portland Timbers. This is the sort of Jekyll and Hyde LA Galaxy that we've been used to over the course of the last few years. Is this what's going to derail LA Galaxy, if anything, is the fact that I guess it all depends on whether the defence turns up or not?
History suggests that's exactly what would derail LA Galaxy if they were to lose this spot. They're not going to get Supporters' Shield because Miami have quite clearly got that wrapped up. But yeah, LA Galaxy, history tells us they're due a wobble here and there. So RSL are going to keep putting that pressure on. LAFC with their 2 games in hand are certainly going to be putting pressure on. And if you're LA Galaxy, don't lose it right at the end, especially to LAFC.
Yeah, well, clinching this early has meant that going into decision day, we don't have that, which, I mean, we're not LA Galaxy fans, but even we have PTSD over the amount of times the LA Galaxy have managed to completely capitulate on the decision day and lose a playoff spot. So they won't do that this time. They're also, looking at Colorado, 8 points difference, played the same. So they will finish in the top 4 as well, which is great for them. It shows improvement for LA Galaxy, doesn't it, over the last few years. It's probably the best they've played and the best team we've seen of LA Galaxy in the time we've been doing this podcast, which says a lot, really. But it's all down to LA Galaxy to now prove that they have changed, because as we know, as I'm sure the fans know, is that at any point this team could capitulate in those playoffs and it end up being a very poor season in the end.
Yeah, and what does it come down to? Because you wouldn't be surprised if that happened, but then it's a different coach, it's different players. We're going back 5-6 years here in the time that we've been doing the podcast. The roster's completely changed. There's no one still there, still playing. So where does that come from? That's what they need to look at and try and stop the rot there. But this has definitely been a much more successful season for them. And I remember in the early episodes of the season, we were looking at new signings, wingers specifically, going, this is incredible. This could be a fantastic season for them. And it turns out it has been. They've just got to get over the line now.
Yeah, well, speaking of getting over the line, their LA rivals, LAFC, they look to be, crawling over the line at the moment with their recent form. A defeat in El Tráfico at the weekend, and then a 1-1 draw at home to Austin in midweek. Olivier Jude, he's only scored 1 in 8 so far. Has he disappointed you? Because, I thought he was going to come and really add something to LAFC and dominate.
Yeah, I think we look at Messi and we say, it was obvious he was going to come to MLS and he was going to dominate. I don't know if it was, because MLS is actually of of a decent standard these days. It's a very old-fashioned view that somebody would just come from Europe and completely dominate. So I am a little bit surprised, disappointed by Giroud not making that impact, because we know he's a good finisher. We know he's a good player. Maybe it's going to take him, this half of the season to adjust and then have a fantastic season in 24-25. But remains to be seen. Currently, LA Galaxy is certainly on top in terms of the El Tráfico derby.
They are, and you, I think it was this season, you famously said that LA Galaxy were now better than LAFC, and I've got to say that you are, I guess you're being proven right. But there's still a while to go, there's still a month to go to the end of the regular season, so we'll wait and see. Right, I guess let's talk about our teams then. I mentioned the Jekyll and Hyde earlier. I guess that can be described as Atlanta's week. Defeat to Nashville at the weekend, and then a 2-2 draw against Miami with Messi and Suarez coming off the bench. Let's not talk about Atlanta. We talked about them last time, and to be honest, I'd just be going over old ground. So let's talk about Orlando then. 3 big wins at home in the last 3 games. No goals conceded in that time. To say you had the poorest home form, you've really picked up. Are you confident now going into the last month of the season?
It's boring, isn't it? Every single year, Orlando start terribly for 4 months. I come on the podcast and say it's time for Pereira to go, and then he starts winning games, and we've now finally won more home games than we've lost. What an achievement. What is it, mid-September? It's ridiculous. And it's happening every single year now. Imagine if he could get the team firing in the start of the season, in March, in April, even into May. But it's not happening. We could be up there. We could be challenging with the likes of LA Galaxy, and we could be talking about, Florida derby for the supporter shield. That's just straight facts. But we just couldn't win a game for months, and then here we are. All of a sudden, not far off getting that playoff spot, sitting in 4th. I think we're the highest placed team not to have a playoff spot clinched yet. So. Bizarre time, really, really bizarre period in Orlando's history with Pereira in charge, because you just completely lose patience, and then he goes, "I'll start trying now."
Ironically, it could be that the strangest period in their history could be the most successful one if they continue this form into the playoffs. Because I guess if Orlando, which it looks at the moment like they could well do, is get that top 4, it means that you've got a home game or 2 home games in the best of 3 series. And then who knows, you might face another team and be at home, and another one and be at home. You might take this home form into MLS Cup before you have to play away in Miami at some point. Torres and Maguire have scored 2 in the last 2 games. Are they going to be, how important are them two if Orlando are going to be successful?
Yeah, really, really overloaded in the final third, Orlando. Torres has taken a while again to, he only sort of turns up when Oscar decides that we should start trying in the second half of the season. Duncan Maguire is a real talent, and Orlando have locked him into a contract now, which is fantastic. Obviously, he had the move to Blackburn, which fell through last year. I really think that front end of the pitch, the front third, is stacked for Orlando, and they're scoring fantastic goals, creating loads of chances. Again, come on to chances created very soon. But I think if there's anywhere that there's work to be done, it's shoring up the defense. Antonio Carlos is a huge miss for Orlando still. Him and Robin Janssen were a fantastic centre-back pairing and really, really solid. The fact remains, with this bizarre playoff system where literally everyone gets a spot, Orlando could play Philadelphia at home. Philly have got half the amount of points that Miami have got, and they're all going to be in the playoffs together. It's a really bizarre concept. And it only takes a few wins, and all of a sudden you put yourself in a really strong position to go and win some silverware. Yeah,
exactly. So we'll see how Orlando end the regular season, see if they can get that top 4 spot and give Elliot a glimmer of hope going into the playoffs. I guess to round off the midweek action, shout outs need to go to Philadelphia, 5-1 win at NYCFC. We saw DC United. Who did they play? When they lost 5-3, I think it was against Dallas a few weeks ago, and their defence had a nightmare in the first half. NYCFC had as bad a nightmare for the 3 goals they conceded in the first half with that one. And then Nashville winning 1-0, following up their 2-0 win at Atlanta. BJ Callahan has shored up their defence. They're not conceding goals last few games, and they're winning again. So is there any teams, I mentioned Philadelphia there, probably a lot more than Nashville, although Nashville are still in it. Is there any teams on the outside the playoffs at the moment that you're looking at and going, they're going to be my pick? If you had to choose one to break into the playoffs, who would it be?
It's tough because it's very close, isn't it? Philly are in that final spot in 9th with 33 points, but DC have got 33, Atlanta have got 32, Nashville have got 32, Montreal 31. It literally takes a double game week like we've had this week, and all of a sudden that could look so different. Atlanta historically know what they're doing in these scenarios, and you would not be remotely surprised if they were the team to sneak in there whatsoever, just based on the past. But Philadelphia and Toronto, who occupy those spots currently, are well-seasoned, well-oiled machines. Jim Curtin at Philadelphia certainly has his feet under the table there, knows every inch of that operation. So I think it's going to be tough at this point for anybody to try and knock them out of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a lot more tighter than the West, isn't it, the East? If you look in the West, you've got, SKC, they're probably too far from it now. So you've got really Dallas and Austin, who are still 4 points off Minnesota in 9th, but are the teams that possibly could make it. So yeah, if you look in the East, then I've got to agree with you. It's got to be Philadelphia at the moment, who I know they're in 9th. I suppose DC, they've got a chance as well when you've got Benteke up front scoring goals. And I think this is what I'm looking for those teams outside. You're looking at Atlanta. Atlanta not scored anywhere near the amount of DC and Philadelphia, so I'm not very hopeful for them. But when you look at teams that have goal scorers or are scoring goals, because as I said, DC have Benteke. Philadelphia have scored 1 less than Columbus this season. And actually, if you started the season halfway through, if you started the season just before the summer, then Philadelphia would probably be challenging Miami at the top of the conference. They've had a real Jekyll and Hyde season. So I think I've got to go with you. I think Philadelphia are my pick to not only get into the top 9, and I know they've got to make up 5 points in Charlotte, but I think they can get into the top 7 as well and get into that 3-match series.
Yeah, agreed. Philly and Toronto to battle it out in those spots, and then try and face a team such as Miami, who have literally got twice as many points as them. It's just bizarre.
And Miami, just a note on them, they are approaching, they're getting closer and closer. They got a point closer against Atlanta to New England Revolution's points record. So Miami at the moment are on 63 points. New England Revolution in 2021, I think, got 73. Miami have got 5 games left, so we'll wait and see if they do that. It's so funny, isn't it, when you talk about points records, because we're used to what happens in England, and obviously the leagues have been going for a lot longer. If you break a points record, that's a massive thing, and it might not be something that's broken for 20, 30 years. In MLS, we've been doing this podcast about 6 years now, 7 years, and I think it's actually been broken 4 times in that period. So if Miami do it this time, great, but don't be expecting to have it for too much longer.
Yeah, you've got Galaxy are going to come back next year, hopefully, and try and assert some more dominance. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with Galaxy. I think I just really want the fairy tale story. But yeah, it's never safe, is it? Because it's very early days in MLS history.
The MLS UK show.
Welcome back. It's now the time that you've all been waiting for. MLS UK show OGs, those who've been there for the last 5 or 6 years will know that we started a game called the Jason Price is Right. And it's basically the Price is Right, Elliot does it, but we needed to put an MLS stance on it, so therefore it became the Jason Christ is right, which was ironic because at the time I think Jason Christ had just been Orlando's manager and Elliot wasn't very happy with him, so the Christ is right made us laugh, or it made me laugh anyway. So bringing it back, hopefully not for one night and one night only, Elliot Holman, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so I talked about it already. Last night I watched FC Dallas away at the Rio Tinto playing RSL, and I was amazed at the amount of chances created in this game, and I was trying to follow it when I was at work, and it was just like, listen, if you looked away at the commentary, it was just constant. It was one end to the other, and it's a great game, and so that inspired me to look at the total scoring attempts by teams in the MLS, because we all know MLS is thrills and spills, and that was highlighted by the FC Dallas goal on halftime, where free kick was taken early. The goalkeeper was literally stood hugging his post trying to organise a wall. Just absolutely balmy. So I'm going to give you the name of a team and the amount of total scoring attempts that they have had in the 2024 season so far. You have to tell me if the next team have higher or lower total scoring attempts. We start with a team we haven't actually mentioned yet in the podcast. It's LA Galaxy. 441 total scoring attempts. Do their rivals LAFC have higher or lower?
Ooh. I'm going to go with, basing it on Ricky Puig creates a lot, or he has done recently anyway. So I'm going to go with the higher than LAFC.
LAFC are higher, so you are wrong. LAFC 443, just 2 chances in it. Up next, your beloved Atlanta United, higher or lower total scoring attempts than 443?
I know, it's lower. It's got to be.
It is lower. It's 429.
Oh, not by many though.
Inter Miami, higher or lower than 429?
Higher.
It's lower.
What?
In the comments, please, if you've watched a lot of Miami this season, what's going on here? Are they a bit pep? Is it don't shoot until you absolutely think you're going to score? Because they're at 345. It's really low. It's really, really low from Miami. 345 total scoring attempts so far this season. Higher or lower? Orlando City.
I'm going to go higher.
It is higher, not by much. It's 390. So we're in sort of like mid-table here. RSL, mentioned them in the setup to this game. Higher or lower than Orlando's 390 total scoring attempts this season?
Well, going off that goal by Anderson the other day, and then Arango as well has scored some beauties this season. They do like a shot on them, so I'm going to say higher.
Yeah, 449 for RSL. Philly, higher or lower than 449?
Right, I'm not going to get fooled by their 5-1 the other day. I think this is lower.
It is lower, but do you know what? It's 444. It's literally like, what, five total scoring attempts lower than RSL, which is crazy. And we'll finish on this one. Philly were on 444. Higher or lower? St. Louis.
Lower.
St. Louis, 467, the highest in MLS. St. Louis City, 467. They have the most total scoring attempts in MLS this season so far.
And how many they've scored? Oh, they've scored 41 actually, so they've scored quite a lot. But yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing in Miami. It's also amazing that so many teams have like in the 440s. Like so many teams within a game of catching each other.
Yeah.
And then you got St. Louis with 460. Wow. Wow. I did not expect that.
Neither did I. I was looking through the stats thinking, oh, what shall we do for a Jason Christ is right? And I saw that St. Louis were top of that and I was like, there it is.
Right, well, hopefully that'll be back soon. We've also got the middle name game. We're building up quite the collection of these games to play on the MLS UK show. If you want to suggest one, then get in touch at MLS UK Show on social media, or stick it in the comments here on YouTube. Right, before we go, we're going to talk about some of the news stories around MLS in the US over the last few days. Let's kick off with Leo Messi. He's back. He's playing. He won man of the match at the weekend. It's as if he'd never been gone. He was on the bench against Atlanta. Now, with 5 games after the regular season, and also importantly, that Miami will play every game of the playoffs as long as they're in it, apart from 1 game in the best of 3 series at home. It's got to be Miami's MLS Cup if Messi and Suarez are on form, right?
Yeah, of course. We talked about it at the start of the season, didn't we? It's the easiest bit of analysis you'll ever hear on any podcast. If Messi plays, they are going to win. And he's just completely proved everybody right. It's just not that deep, is it? It's really simple. It's the best player that's ever walked the earth. And Messi is making such a difference, but so is Suarez. We've had games where Messi's been missing and Suarez has put the team on his back a little bit. And just what a duo. I know there's a lot more at play in Miami than Messi and Suarez. I know that. But if you take them out of the side, they aren't where they are, and that's just a fact.
Yeah, and we'll go more in detail of who we think will win MVP or who we want to win MVP in a future episode. But for me, I would actually rather Suarez win it than Messi. If one of them's going to win it, I think I've been so impressed with Luis Suarez. I know how good a player he is anyway, but how good he's been. And at the start of the season, I was saying, can he do it? Can he do it for as long as, this season? Can he do a few games, where you've got to travel within a week or so? And he's proved me wrong. He's been fantastic.
Yeah, we were led to believe as well, I think, that he was really going to struggle with his injury, and that actually just hasn't been the case. Still been able to really dominate teams. It's been really, really impressive. I think we all know that MLS will want Messi to win this award. 100%. They want to add to his... They'll pretend that it's up there with the World Cup, and it isn't. It just isn't. But they will want Messi to win this award 100%.
Yeah, definitely. Right, Carlos Vela is back in MLS and he's back at LAFC. We put a tweet out the other day which basically compared it to I think we should see other people, and then realising that there's no other people, and then going, hey, what's up? I've missed you, in a text, and hoping to come back. And Carlos Vela has come back to LAFC. He'll be playing up front with Olivier Jude. What do you make of this? Because Carlos Vela, I mean, obviously he's LAFC's best ever player. He's a legend, not only in MLS but also at the club. I mean, this is the type of signing that could actually get them over the line, couldn't it? And get them to the latter ends of the playoffs.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's really good from LAFC. This is, I don't want to create headlines here, but this is one of the best signings that I've seen in MLS. And I'll tell you why. It's really, really clever, because they didn't want to keep paying millions for Carlos Vela to be a LAFC player. He was their captain. He'd been there since the start of the team. And, he's won it all with LAFC. However, as he was getting older and older, they decided they weren't renewing the deal. And so he's gone, okay, and hasn't been able to really find anything that takes his fancy elsewhere. And so they've kept in touch, kept talking, and it didn't really, the two sides were way off in their valuation. But because Vela hasn't found anything else, he's come back and he's joined MLS. We don't know the exact figure, but we know he's not a designated player. So he isn't on millions, and we know this isn't a TAM deal either. So we know that he is not getting much money for joining LAFC again. But they've got the same player they had before, but for a lot less money. And he's gonna be instrumental. It doesn't matter if he comes on and plays the last 20, or he plays the first half and comes off. It doesn't matter, because they're not forking out millions and millions in their roster. So it's a really good deal. I'm looking forward to seeing him play with Giroud, hopefully. It's stacked. LAFC have always been stacked, but now they've got Vela available as well, alongside some of the other attacking talents. This is going to be a great finish to this MLS season.
Yeah, I think, when you look at his stats, obviously, 2019 was an amazing season for him, and then since then, it's not been to that standard. I think when you look at stats, you could go, is he going to do that? But I think he's still going to be inspirational in that locker room. He was there for a long time, and he's not been gone for a long time. They'll still know him. And I think if you look at his stats, in terms of goal involvement, so goals and assists, last year he got 17 in 39 matches, season before 24 in 35. So whereas the few years before that, you were looking at 10s and not very much. But he's actually come out of a little slump, and he's been getting better. So, for someone who's going to come in, hopefully for LAFC's sake, for, 5 games plus another 5 or 6, it could be a really smart move from LAFC. So we'll have to wait and see where his fitness is at. We don't know. But this is it. Is that their main man up front is Olivier Jude. So he's not, he will play with Giroud at some point, but he's not someone who's going to come in and they expect him to be straight away. You've got to play 90 minutes. You've got to score his goals. It's just someone to come off the bench and see how he does. So, it could be a very smart move from LAFC.
The simplest way to look at this is whatever job you do, if you're put in charge of some aspect of your job and you have a little bit of money to spend, you have to spend it wisely, right? And you don't want anybody pointing the finger at you going, well, what happened there? This is no risk for LAFC. They're not forking out millions. They haven't put all their chips on Carlos Vela. And if it doesn't work out, if he isn't able to hit those heights that he was before, which is unlikely, there's nothing lost there. And I think it's a really smart deal.
And speaking of people with new jobs, Mauricio Pochettino is the new US men's national team head coach. I've seen people describe this as the best appointment, or the most high-profile appointment since Jurgen Klinsmann into this role. Were you a bit surprised by this? Because without being, without disrespecting the US men's national team, and you could say this for any national team actually, it's turned fully now where, say the national team jobs aren't as lucrative as they were, say, 15 years ago. People and good managers are looking to stay in club management for as long as possible. So with Pochettino being relatively young, I guess, still he's not in his 60s, and just coming from jobs at Chelsea, PSG, Tottenham, are you surprised by this?
Yes and no. So there's two sides to this. Pochettino is a really unlucky victim of the ridiculous circus at Stamford Bridge at the minute. This is an MLS podcast, so I won't go into it, but I just have got no time for Chelsea. It's just an embarrassment of riches, literally. So he is a victim of that. So is Frank Lampard, and so is everybody else who's been Chelsea manager for the last 3-4 years. But I'm not surprised with him out of work. I'm not surprised that he has taken this job. It's an attractive job. We all know that. This is the thing with US soccer. This is a country who have really got it together, who have got a good side, who have got good talent, got a good structure. MLS has really been instrumental in that. And they're hosting a World Cup. This is huge. This is fantastic for Pochettino. Am I surprised a little bit? Yeah. But then when you really think about it, what an attractive job. What a great job. And it shouldn't be difficult to get a tune out of the US men's national team. Now, whether it turns out to remain to be difficult is another thing, but he knows what he's doing. This is a fantastic appointment, and it's a good chance for him as well.
Yeah, the US men's national team have underachieved for quite a while now, so they need someone to come in and deal with that. And I think, for Pochettino, I was surprised at first, to be honest, because I feel with the US men's national team, they get all these names branded about. People are saying, Klopp could come in or whoever. And he never goes anywhere, and they end up with a Berhalter, someone who's just been around the US soccer before. So when it actually got confirmed, I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised. But yeah, I think it makes sense. He's going into a home World Cup where the pressure's on. Of course it is. And he's been under pressure at other jobs, so he knows what it takes for that. But even if Pochettino comes in, gets the US to the semi-finals and then says, right, that's me done. I'm going to go now back to club management. it's something. And I think that's where the US are at the moment. Is I don't think the US men's national team is in a spot where they can look too much into the future. They need someone to come in now and sort out the mess that's there, rather than someone who's going to come in and go, right, okay, well, you've got a few years, just get the team ready to how you want to play, and then we want you in for 10 years, and we might get to the latter stage of the World Cup in, the, 2030 or whatever. If you don't have that time, they need someone to come in now, and I think Pochettino could be the perfect man for that.
Yeah, agreed. Really interested to see how this goes.
And I'm really interested to see who the name is for the Anton Wart's game with the changing name, because we've been recording for, about half an hour, and I still don't have a clue. So, Elliot, put me out my misery, please.
It's Morris John Giblin Johnson, otherwise known as Mo Johnston. He was a Kansas City Wizards player in the early noughties, went on to manage Toronto and New York Red Bulls, but has also played Partick Thistle, Watford, Celtic, Nons, Rangers, Everton, Heart of Midlothian and Falkirk. So that'll teach you to message me telling me it's been too easy, won't it?
Yeah, thanks everyone for that. Mo Johnston, of course, I know his links to MLS. I actually knew as well he played for Rangers and Celtic, but all the other teams I didn't have a clue. People of a certain age will be screaming into their headphones or their laptop screens, and they'll know that, of course. But unfortunately I didn't. So if you can stop messaging Elliot saying it's too easy so he can go back to an easy one next time, then I'd really appreciate that.
He's also, on his Wikipedia, he's noted for scoring at the Prince Faisal bin Fahd Stadium in Riyadh in a friendly against Saudi Arabia. So,
well, there you go. Yeah. And Scotland haven't achieved much more in
that's true.
history, in recent times anyway. Right, that's nearly it from us. Thanks very much for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Just leave as many comments as you want, because it helps the algorithms. We'll be back next time, but if you do subscribe, obviously click the notification bell and you'll know when we upload a video. If you listen on your podcast provider, then thank you very much. Please leave us a rating if you are. But Elliot, there is one rule and one rule only if you're going to do that.
Yeah, and it's been imitated by Ricky Pooge. Did you see that? His celebration. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars only.
Yeah, definitely. That's Ricky Pooge watches this podcast, and that is where he got it from. But yeah, maybe he'll have to introduce his second hand next year if LA Galaxy go and win MLS Cup.
I won't hold my breath.
Right, that's it. Until next time, I've been Henry Hewitt.
And I've been Elliot Holman.
See ya!